Hi everyone, it's Peter from PS Sound, and this is the last video probably I'm going to share this year. So at the same time, I would like to thank all of you for the continuous support throughout the years, all the commenting and all the shares and everything, because I can definitely see the effect of what we and many others do in this industry to push sound quality forward. And hopefully 2022 is going to be a little better, because the last 2 years have been pretty difficult for most of us. But honestly, I'm really appreciative for all the support I've got from you guys, and especially on Patreon as well. If you don't know what Patreon is, then please check out in the description, there's a link to it. Then you can see how much stuff we share over there, more in-depth content, RTA test of cars, behind the scene, fabrication videos, weekly topics, all sorts of things. So it's very useful. So this is the last video showing what we did with this Clio trophy, and many things changed. Things changed along the project. We changed head unit because the client changed his mind and what he wanted: CarPlay, he wanted sat-nav, and this was the only option to have a doubled-in flip-out head unit. So that changed. Then we also changed the mid-bass installation, and I'm gonna put in a video now from the time when we were doing the install. I shot a video showing the door and explaining how many issues we had with it, and because of that we changed plans and we installed the mid-bass somewhere else. Some of you might have already seen the pictures on Facebook. I shared them, I think, yesterday, and we upset quite many people, especially the Renault Clio owners. So if you are one of those guys from the Renault Clio group, then I'm really sorry. You know, I know it makes people painful. Well, it makes them feel pain when they see what we've done to the car. We cut certain parts of it that most people would never do, but we are going to explain it with the owner. So please stay with us. I'm going to show what was happening with the door, and then you will see what we did after that. And the owner will be with me as well, and he will explain his side. So it's going to be a very interesting video. So enjoy the upcoming probably 20-25 minutes. At the same time, I would like to wish all of you a really happy and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Definitely a better year, because that's all we can wish for. Just, you know, have just a little bit better year than the previous one, and we should be all good. So enjoy, and then check out what we've done, because this is not a usual system. So this is the part that we really wanted to show to everyone, just so everyone understands why people may know that I hate doors, or I don't prefer to have a mid-bass in a door. And this car is a perfect example for that, because this car doesn't have an inner skin at all. The door card seals it. That's where the pocket of the door card sits into. Can you please tip it? Then they can see it. So that pocket sits into that gap, and the door card itself is your baffle. So all the bass that you pump into the door over there, it can come out there, here, everywhere, and you can't seal it because the door card sits in there, it's molded around it. So all the energy is going to end up on the door card. Even if you deaden it, you will have a lot of things rattling. Not to mention, the whole structure of the door is a nightmare. This is definitely one of the worst. So first, we saw this plastic piece that we didn't really quite understand why it was there. It's held in place with 3 clips. So the whole thing can move against, you see? So we thought, okay, let's say we take it out. But this plastic is a support for the window as a guide, that you can see a groove in there where the window slides down into. So moving part, plastic parts, and then you have so many plastic things in it, like this one as well. This holds the door.
I fixed it.
Oh, they fixed it, but there was a gap between it and it could move. Did you squash?
Carpet.
Yeah, a bit of carpet behind it, you can see, guys. But before that could move. There's just one clip holding it in place where you screw the door card down into. This is the part where you have the handle. Window mechanism is right next to the mid-bass. Can you please hold the doors? It's strong, then I can flex it. Then people can also see that it doesn't really require, look, it's 2 fingers. The whole thing flexes. So that's where you want to mount a birch ring or HDP, anything, even aluminium. You can put an aluminium ring on it, it doesn't matter. And that's what I always talk about, and people may think I'm crazy, why I hate doors so much. In some cars you may be lucky, like we had the Golf that was pretty rigid. Some of the Volkswagens are pretty good, that they build that area where the driver is quite well built, and it has less flexing, plus the whole inner skin of the door is a complete piece sealing everything. So the door is very well sealed with less flex, but this just has too much flex. You would need crazy amount of strengthening by then. You add so much weight. You know, no deadening is gonna solve that. If you think about your home cabinets, they don't have a buffer like this, do they? That's gonna cause all, you know, lost energy. And then now, as I mentioned earlier, through those gaps, all the bass, all the wave comes back and ends up on the door card. So it will be just useless. So yes, we were a bit upset seeing this because yeah, we will show that in a second, walk around, show what we've done with the dash pillars, whatnot throughout the car. But then we would end up having a really badly performing door. So that would just ruin everything. Also, I wanted to show something on this door card. Now let's tip it this way now. Just hold it. So where the pocket is, obviously it's two-part. There's a front piece and a back piece, but it's clipped together by factory in a way that you can't get to it. You see that? It's not much force. It's just squeaking everywhere, and we can't do anything with that. We can't get in between and fill it with foam or anything like that. And not to mention that the previous owner wanted to minimize rattles and he covered it with foam pretty well. But now if we wanted to add deadening to it, if we were really using the mid base in the door, then stripping now that foam down would be an absolute nightmare.
Can't really do it. There's always gonna be a layer or the
adhesive left from the and clean it off. It would be easier to buy another set of door cards. So we will look into this just to, you know, go a step beyond, just like we did with the dashboard. I will show as we walk around the whole build what we've done. Like here as well, we can isolate it, put foam between. By the way, these are looking like holding clips, but there's nothing on the door. So I don't know.
Maybe those door cards are universal for many other cars.
Maybe, and some other cars have clips there, but this doesn't have anything. So we try to isolate it a bit more, put a bit of carpet here as well, because this sits against that plastic inside of the door.
Does it?
This area, yeah, it goes against it. This acts like a crash zone thing, something. So just, yeah, I wanted to show this to you guys so you understand why we did, what you're gonna see now from the walk around. You could see that we had many concerns with the doors, and that's gonna be the reason why we did what we did. But before I show the speaker installation, I just wanna show the front of the car, and then we will go from the front to the back. So over here, we have a 4-way distribution now the charger is on. But that's where we run now 2 8-gauge cables to 2 separate amplifiers. We didn't quite have enough space underneath the seats for a power distribution, so we fitted it here. And we also have a separate fuse for the charger. There's a C-Tech charger. There's a plexi plate, nicely. What would you say, Eddie? What did you do with that? Well, you shaped it.
Heat gun and yeah,
the classic way to shape it. And it's bolted to that steel bar with machine bolts. So that's proper solid. Just put the charger back because we've been playing music. So that's pretty much it. Nothing fancy, but everything done properly, cables terminated properly. And then we get to the inside of the car. So the pictures were shared yesterday on Facebook, and yeah, as expected, quite many people were, having their eyes popping out, because we've done something that most people wouldn't do to a car like this, because it's a limited edition car. And if it was just a normal, is it the 182? The
182 is the one, yeah. It's a 182 with different suspension.
Yeah, so this is a bit more special. And if it was a normal one, nobody would really worry about cutting and things like that. But because it's a limited edition, yes, quite many people, they were not happy with what we did. But we had to make it clear that this car is used for, probably this is the part when you have to explain how you use your car.
So, do you know, over the years I've bought comfier, bigger cars, and I'm in my early 40s now, and I always remember the best cars I've ever driven is a 1986 Vauxhall Cavalier. So in Europe it's an Opel, right? Yeah, and it was 1600cc, manual, no power steering, no ABS brakes, and it was just something that felt alive, felt light. And I've had fancier, bigger cars. I've got some nice cars as it is, and I've looked at Audi R8s for 80,000, 100,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And this is what I want. I want that feeling. I want to feel the enjoyment of driving. And it so happens that this happens to be a limited edition trophy, but it's a fantastic little car, and it's for me. I really don't care about future values.
Because
I just want to enjoy it. It's for me.
Yeah.
Mechanically, it's incredible. It's got the limited slip diff. It's got the carbon box. It's immaculate. I bought the best example I could to make the best vehicle for me.
That lasts.
Yeah, and when I think back to when I was 18 years old, it was driving for 3 hours, crazy music pumping and blasting. The two just go together. You know, you lose yourself, wild abandon, you feel free. So for me, as great as a car is, if it's got no tunes, I don't enjoy the experience. I need them both.
Well, so you have great exhaust sound, engine sound, and that's when people get a bit upset by what we did, because they say, what's the point? You want to enjoy the sound of the car.
So I live in London, and sometimes you're on a motorway for an hour till you get to some nice roads, or I'm just driving and around at 20 miles an hour. You can't use a car like this. I've got semi-solid engine mounts. It's noisy, it shakes. If you can enjoy the music, it makes that tolerable as well.
Yeah, that's what people have to understand. And what we did is something on a different level. Those people who've been following our channel, they know that we build sound systems to competition levels, and most people can only ever appreciate it once they sit in the car behind the steering wheel, and once they hear it, they have no questions. Because anyone can tell when a system sounds just really good, not just making noise. And that's the part when now I have to show you what we did. Actually, can you pass me a torch? Because we may need that. So we did something very unusual with the mid bass that not many people do, and this is not the first time I've seen anything like this. So we fitted the mid bass through the wheel arches, and that's the point when I have to drop a few pictures in and you will see what's been done. So before anyone worries, the driver is completely safe and protected from any moisture or water from the outside through a lure, and you have rain guard layers, 2 layers, so it's impossible to have any moisture, any water coming through. Even if you didn't have those layers, then the moisture would hit the cone of the driver, which is water resistant anyway. And before people worry about the moisture, well, it wouldn't be any different in the door, because you have the same amount of crap inside of the door. And quite often we see taking drivers out that they are just rotted and rust everywhere on them, because you have a fair amount of water going into the door the same way. So if anything, that driver is now over there is way safer when it comes to that. Then people wonder what it sounds like, because they just don't understand the concept of having a driver facing the outside of the cabin. Well, this is called an infinite baffle application, and the driver basically pumps the bass into the cabin the same way you would have it playing from the door into the cabin. Just when you have it in the door, then the door card and the inner skin of the door separates the rear wave. In this case, the rear wave, it goes to the exterior of the car. But then people think that the driver is not controlled because it's working technically in free air, but you need the right drivers which have the right till and small parameters, and then it just works absolutely fine. And what you get, as opposed to a door application, is that it's just such a clean sound in the cabin that you can't compare to anything else. the driver is in the best location you can get in any car. We don't have any phase problems in the response, no cancellations whatsoever between 60 and 200 hertz, and you don't need to have it playing anywhere further up because we fitted mid-range drivers on the dash. So the mids were custom fitted, the whole top of the dash. Well, technically the whole dash was out because we had a task to make this car as rattle-free as possible, because the solid engine mounts make this car shake a bit, we can say that. And every single part that we took out, when it went back, it was isolated with either self-adhesive back foam or closed cell foam, Tesa tape, anything to isolate all the plastic things. But still there are parts like this, and this is when I'm gonna put a video in. Gotta love French cars. I thought that the speaker was broken. There are parts we just can't do anything with, these little things. So you will see on the other side we applied a bit of a shoddy solution, but at least it stops the rattle. So up front we have freeway, mid bass in the kicks, then that's a Focal K130. Is it the K? No, what is it called? Focal
130.
Well, basically it's the K series, the K2
Yes.
Power series. This is the ES130 from the two-way set. And then we have the Steg MSS3 4-inch mid-range drivers, which went through a cosmetic modification, because originally they come with a really shiny ring which would throw a reflection on the windscreen. So we painted those, and the Steg MSS1 tweeters on the pillars. So this way you get a fully active three-way front end, running through a Helix V8 DSP underneath the seat. And on the other side we have the JL XD 600/1 monoblock running the sub at the back. We also have rear fill in the car, in the factory locations, working as differential rear fill, and we have the option to attenuate the level if we want to with the Helix conductor that I'm going to show as it was fitted on the other side. So let's see the trunk, and this also has received comments, right?
So yeah, this is, so at first I was like, Peter, just no sub. You've got to put a system in, no sub whatsoever. And then I started looking into it, started thinking about my other systems and what they do.
What did I tell you right at the beginning?
Apart from that, I'm full.
No, about the sub.
You always need a sub, right?
Always.
So I looked at this, and Peter didn't even know I was suggesting this to start off with. But for me, this is where the shock mounts are. So it's actually in line with the rear axle of the vehicle, right? So in my mind, we're forward, we haven't got weight over the back. It's small, it weighs 9.6 kgs. It may not be the most helpful.
Yeah, but it's lighter than a shopping bag.
Yeah, it's like, but it's in the right location as well, you know?
Yeah.
So it was just an easy thing to do, and yeah, this is me.
Yeah. Just to make sure that, you know, this is a performance car and that subwoofer stays in place, we use a KGN aluminium profile running across the car with heavy duty bolts and brackets, and we bolted it down to factory mounting points. So the sub is bolted through to that bar. So this way, that sub is not gonna go anywhere because you drive these cars properly.
That's what it's meant to do.
Exactly. But many people commented that, you know, what's the point having all that effort up front and then you chuck in a prefab box that was meant to be for trucks that you just throw them in. Well, yes, we could have built a factory box, well, not a custom box, but
also,
it does the job.
But also because of, correct me if I'm wrong, but because of the path length of the car, to get a lot bigger base, you need more drive units bigger.
Where we need a larger driver, a larger box size. So yes, this sub is potentially not the best sounding sub, but it's definitely better than having a no sub. And when it comes to keeping the weight low, then this was possibly the best solution we could have. We were looking at the 12-inch because this is only the 10-inch, but we couldn't get the 2-on version of the 12-inch. It wasn't on stock. And yeah,
for me this was 9.6 kg and that's 13.6, and it's like 4 kg, and do you know what? If I could get away with this, get away with this. If
Yeah.
we needed the other one, go for it. But yeah, I am concerned about it.
And it does a good job, integrates well with the front end. There's no cancellation up to 120 Hertz with this sub. We cross it way lower than that, but integrating it to the front is that easy in this short car, and it plays down to 30 Hertz, so it's just enough to get that extra body that you also need on the road when you have road noise. Otherwise, without a sub, most systems would struggle big time. That's why I always say you always need a sub, unless you have such a quiet car that the mid bass on its own up front can play low enough and you can actually hear all the details. Because when you drive on the road, especially with this car, under 200 Hertz you lose a lot. The road noise just drains the place. Yeah, drains it out. So that's the back end, nice and simple. And then on this side, let's see if I jump in. So in the introduction you could see that we wanted to fit a Alpine head unit, a single DIN head unit. Well, plans changed because, what was the reason?
Do you know, so just thinking about how I use the car. So I've got a 6-year-old son and he absolutely adores this car. We go for it, it makes noise, he loves it. But after I drop him from school on the way back, I make work phone calls, as crazy as it sounds. Yeah. And this just gives me that. It allows me to be integrated with my telephone.
So the phone kit there.
So I've got Apple CarPlay. I'm used to CarPlay in all my other cars. And this was a last minute. Visually, it's not what I want. I wanted to keep it visually classic. But from a practical point of view, and especially if I'm going to be keeping this for the next 8, 12 years, I'm sure in the next 2 years, we're all going to be using CarPlay. So this kind of future-proofs it.
But if you don't need the screen, you can always just shut it like this.
And still use the Fiio, so you still have music, yeah. And the phone will run through.
So today, as we have the handover, we listen to different options, CD, USB, CarPlay, and there was just something not quite right with the top end and the quality that was coming out of the head unit. Although, yes, we must say that we have, a certain reference level.
So I've dealt with Peter twice previously. This is the third car that I've done with him. And so the first car, some of you may know, it was the BMW 6 GT. And, still tweaking that. It never ends, Yeah. But my expectations are very high, so to say.
People know the 6 GT. They refer to it so often, especially because of the 4K Utopia and plus the true IB mid-bass we did in that too. So that's the other thing, that application wasn't new to you, and actually you brought it up.
Yeah. So
first I told to you I wouldn't cut the car, I would build lightweight door enclosures for the mid-bass, but then you said, Pete.
So the project was going really well, really excited about all of it, and then when we got to the doors, I could hear it in Pete's voice, and also I just got a bit deflated and disappointed. And I thought, we're doing this. I just want to be happy at the end of the day, Just do it. Can we cut it? Literally, I sent Pete a text message. 2 seconds later, done. And I said, hold on, do you need 10 minutes to think about this? No, I told you we're doing it. Honestly, I gave him an option to calculate.
This is no surprise for us. We build competition cars and we know, and actually I'm going to make t-shirts which will have location, application and tuning written on it, because that's what matters in car audio more than anything. If you want to build good sounding systems, forget dealing with price tags and highly overhyped brands. That's not what car audio is about. It's about installation, getting the drivers to the optimal locations, making sure that the driver that's fitted in the given application suits that application, because now we could have a driver in this IB application with the wrong T-lens mode parameters and it wouldn't sound quite right. It wouldn't be controlled, it wouldn't be tight, whereas these drivers are stunning. And yes, people may think, okay, it's not a 6.5, it's just 5 1/4. Can it actually produce enough bass?
No, it really does. And so having reference from the 6 GT, what I'll say is this actually in some ways sounds more coherent. It's a simpler setup in terms of that you really can't hear many phase issues at all. And I think I'm quite susceptible to that. So I'm always speaking to Pete and saying, do you know in the 6 can we do this or that or this or that? This pulls as a whole, as a sum of its parts, it really pulls together well.
But then, as I mentioned earlier, we figured out that the source is just not making us happy. Probably 95% of the people whoever sit in this car, they would be happy with anything, and either see the USB, replace FLAC wave, all the lossless formats through USB, and people would be happy with that. But we could just tell that it wasn't good enough. And then as soon as we tried the Fiio, straight away,
Yeah. So
first 10 seconds, you can tell that.
So I was
all
wondering,
different
is
story.
is it the digital amp compared to the AP Zapcos we're running in the 6 GT, and then the second we switched on the Fiio, it just came to life.
Yeah.
You know, quality of source, and so we're putting it down to the DAC. You know, rather than the files, it's the DAC in the head unit compared to the DAC in the Fiio, because we're running analog out into the head unit.
Yeah, you could run it analog straight from that to the Helix V8. You could even have it running out of the coax, converted to optical without loss of quality, and then you could still run it digital. But to be fair, once it runs through the head unit, through the aux input, then we bypass all the DAC chip in the head unit, so it's clean signal running through it into the DSP, and it sounds miles better.
Yeah. It's not a small improvement. It's
easy to notice, especially on the top end dynamics. Everything just comes alive with it. So, you know, that's pretty much this system. The only thing I may have to add, for those who might be thinking how much weight we added to this car, in fact, the total is 26 kilos, which is probably like what, 55 pounds, or less than 60 pounds. Well, that's, yeah, some people have more extra weight on their body than that.
So if it wasn't the type of car it is, I would have asked Peter to put a lot more deadening in.
Yeah.
You know?
We only applied deadening where it was really needed. We applied a little bit around the mid base on the floor. Then we have 3 silent coat sheets on the dash because of the mid-range, which is 1.5 kilo. Just that, 1.5 kilo on the floor. That's 3 kilo. Then the speaker installation. So we counted at the front end installing 6 speakers plus the deadening is 6 kilos. Then we have 2 amplifiers. That's 7, including mounting plates, whatnot. That's 13, right? Yeah. Then we have 10 at the back with the subwoofer. That's 23. And then we have the rear quarter panels with minimal deadening and soundproofing, plus the speakers. And that's where we are at 26. And that's it. Yeah. So when people thought that, you know, we added 60, 80 kilos to the car, in fact, hardly anything. 26 kilo is probably half a tank.
A third of a passenger.
Exactly. So if someone worries about the weight, then maybe you don't even have passengers, because then, it's not going to drive the same.
But for me, the overall enjoyment, and you know what, you're not pushing it at 10 tenths. You know, I'm enjoying the car and the road and the music and the experience. And it's you know, I think a lot of people buy cars about the idea of them. I do drive my cars hard, but I really enjoy the music in them. You know, I've had cars when I was much younger, and you used to go around to stereo shops, and there'd be a problem, and you'd be without a stereo for a week, just wires hanging out of your dashboard.
Yeah.
Most painful time ever in the world without tunes.
Those people who love music, they understand it. Those who just want a Bluetooth kit behind the head unit and they are happy with that, they will never understand it. It's the same way, you know, someone who uses a car just for commuting, he will never understand why people buy performance cars. What's the point of a Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini? What's the point? They don't see that. So people have to understand that for us audiophiles, and those people who come to us, they want the absolute best when it comes to sound quality. And then if you don't understand it, anyone is ever welcome. Drop us a line. You can come down for a demo. We can show you a few cars, what it's about. And yeah, that means more than anything, looking at hundreds of pictures. So here we are at the end of this video, probably. At the end, I'm going to drop in all the build pictures so you can see what went into it. Where we spent 156 hours on this car, because that's another thing people don't understand. But every single piece that went back into this car was isolated. The whole dash, all the trim panels, side panels, center panels, A-pillars, everything was isolated in this car. All the little plastic bits. Or like, yes, I showed this earlier, that buzz, we just put a bit of foam underneath it to put stress on it. So now this cannot buzz. All those little things matter a lot. So this is it for this one, guys. Check out description, you will see a few links in that to Patreon where we where we can show all the content behind the scene, how we fitted the mid-range, how we did the mid-base, also the RTA measurements of this car can be seen over there, so that puts a better meaning to, you know, what the drivers are doing in given locations, so you can take some information away from that if you want to do something crazy like that. And yeah, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, because we can see that more than half of the people who follow the channel, they are not subscribed. And you know, everything helps to grow the channel. The better the channel grows, the more content we can share with you. But hopefully you liked it, you learned a lot from this. Check out the pictures at the end of the video, and so I'll see you in the next one. Take care.
Thank you.